I mentioned De'Aaron Fox, I mentioned Buddy Hield because they are two quick, active players that could cause problems for one Pascal Siakam. He has had some problems foul-wise so far this season, to the point where he's fouled out twice. Coincidentally, both of those foul-outs have come in the two Raptors losses against Boston, against Milwaukee. So much so, before we get your thoughts on it, his coach is kind of mad about it. Yes. Listen to Nick Nurse.
He hasn't been very smart, if you want me to be honest with you. Most of those have been fouls. And they're touch fouls that they're not calling on everybody, and they're not calling every trip up and down. But if you go back and by the letter of the law, they say, hey, he's got 2 hands on him. So he's got to take the 2 hands off him.
I got to be ready a little more, just like my readiness in terms of like defensively and being ready to help. Or I think it starts with that. If you're standing straight up and down, you got a good chance to, one of the guys makes a move, not to, to put your hands there or something, or whatever the case might be. So I think I got to be more ready.
Okay. So Pascal could do no wrong for a lot of the last season and the early part of this season offensively, but when your coach says he hasn't been smart about that, it feels like it hits a little harder.
It certainly does, and this is not the first time we've heard Nick Nurse with some
call out commands. Yeah.
Are you here for CNN condescending Nick Nurse? Let us know, because this is not the first time he's called someone else.
He's gonna add an initial to his hat instead of NN. It's gonna be CNN. Yeah.
The most trusted name in press conferences. Listen.
No, not that CNN. Sorry.
The guys he called out before were guys who weren't playing. Yeah. This is the best player on his team. Here's the thing. He's right.
Of course he's right. He's right.
You can be mean when you're right. That's the moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing. It's not just the 2 games that he fouled out of, which you mentioned smartly that they lost. He has had 5 fouls at least in 4 of the 6. Yeah. So he's not been able to play heavy minutes because he's getting touch fouls early in ball games, and he's better than that.
To Pascal's credit, not at all absolving any of the like he knows this is a problem. He spoke about it earlier in the season. Was better for a game than wasn't. You mentioned the 4 games with 5 or more fouls. The 2 games he fouled out, he had 2 fouls in the first half of the first quarter, 6+ minutes. Playing Boston, playing Milwaukee, you need your best player on the court in those instances, and so we'll see. It is one of those learning curve things for Pascal Siakam. Sometimes you forget, he picked up a basketball 9 years ago, right? And the pace of the game is changing. The game is always evolving, and maybe there's a little bit of him in his own head. He thinks he's a star player. He is a star player in a lot of respects. Refs don't see that yet, so you got to play to their strengths. You got to cater to them, and things get better. Now, for Nick Nurse saying he hasn't been very smart about fouls, I feel like some of the players can say the same thing about Nick Nurse when it comes to some challenges.
Yes.
I found it interesting that we wanted to talk about challenges, and I looked into the stats a little bit more, and I looked into the fouls that he was actually challenging. I'm like, yo, Nicholas, what are you saying, my guy? So are you here for Nick Nurse going the entire season without winning a challenge? I'm actually now intrigued at the subplot of, will he ever win an NBA challenge?
Or will he just stop challenging?
Yeah, true.
I thought you were going to say that you were interested to see that we were talking about challenges, and you looked into our pre-show Google Doc to see who put the topic in. Because that was me.
I know that was you, because it wasn't
here
me. There's 2 of us. I didn't have to look.
Right, and listen, I have beef with the rest because they're not giving Pascal Siakam the star calls that they deserve. But I also have beef with Nick Nurse because everything he challenged, I'm like, you're not winning this. Right? Like, not to make this soccer, but referees are only going to change things when they're looking at their own mistakes if they're what? Clear and obvious.
Yeah.
Right? Clear and obvious fouls the way we have in VAR. Well, NBA VAR is telling Nick Nurse that none of that was clear or obvious.
I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to go with this, and so I gave it to you because you put it in the Google Doc and respect. I know you wanted to talk about it. What the hell do you want me to say? I actually want him to lose every challenge for the rest of the year. I think it would be amazing, and I wish there was some stipulation in his contract. I feel like we're going to start adding coaches' stipulations in contracts. You know how players get incentives based on certain things?
Yeah.
Like, you win X amount of challenges, you get X dollars more. Or if you lose X amount of challenges, look, next year's salary, we're cutting that a little bit. Coaches will be a little smarter on when they throw that proverbial flag.
I've watched a lot of basketball. I barely see any coaches early in the season. A couple weeks in.
It is early. They're tweaking.
Winning challenges, but let us know in the comments what you think of him challenging and continuing to lose. Here's the thing. I honestly believe that we should go to the model of let him phone a friend. Ask somebody, should I challenge this?
The purpose is to make the game quicker.
Ask the audience. Just put it up on the big screen. Should he challenge this? 50-50.
So you're yelling at me for telling the audience to talk on a certain section, but you want these coaches to be like, yo, hold on. Who's up top? Like, Luke Walton's going to call Roy Rana and be like, my phone's not connecting. There's some connectivity issues, like roaming. There's a lot of problems there, I think, as well.
First of all, if you have connectivity issues, you need to get on Rogers, right? You need to get that 3G. But we're trying to make the game interactive. Adam Silver could sell that time. I'm telling you, it's a thing.
All right.
50 years from now, it's going to be a thing.
All right, cool. I will let my kids let me know. No need to sell Monday's game. Kawhi Leonard, Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are in LA. First time they've played Kawhi and the Clippers since he obviously left to go back home. Game is on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 1 at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. It leads us to a larger conversation. I think one about the West in general. We know Kawhi has arguably been one of the top 2-3 players in the league so far this season. They're not the top team in the West right now. They're not the top LA team even. And we're not here to talk about load management. We're here to talk about the West right now and what storyline impresses you. So I'm going to start with the Lakers because after that first game against Kawhi's Clippers, you're like, oh man, maybe they're just not there yet. But then you realize, all right, it's Kawhi and the Clippers. Maybe they're just the best team in the West. The Lakers are pretty damn good. And LeBron making us all forget or making us all remember why he's as good as he has been for this long. Like 3 straight triple-doubles. The team is atop the West. Like Anthony Davis is incredible. Danny Green's been a savior for them. I don't know. I feel like they're worthy of conversation.
We talk about all of these duos that got together in the offseason. The best one early has been them.
Yes.
D'Angelo Russell said about playing them, it's like you're playing a fantasy team.
Yep.
And he's right, because if you have those guys on your fantasy team, you're winning. And so the Lakers, other than the first game, are winning. The crazy thing is, when you look at the West, the other duos that have been good aren't those crazy free agent duos. It's Luka and Kristaps. That's
Ricky Rubio and Devin Booker, baby.
Apparently, well,
sorry,
actually,
Aaron Baines.
Aaron Baines.
Yeah.
Aaron Baines. Injured
Some
people
respect in
and
Aaron
hitting
Baines' name.
threes.
Yeah.
Aaron Baines. And so that's why the other thing to me is, well, how long will that duo be together? Because AD,
this was an interesting subplot this week, right?
Already being linked to Chicago. How is he being linked? Because he brought it up when
he
was
didn't
in
bring it up.
Chicago.
So here, he didn't bring it up. He was asked at a Chicago Nike event if he has interest in ever playing in Chicago. Obviously, he said that in the past. He said Chicago's the basketball mecca of the world. He wants to play there. What's he supposed to say? Also, he's an unrestricted free agent. He's not just supposed to let the Lakers think now that it's all wrapped up, right?
He's supposed to say what Kawhi Leonard said for a year.
He's not Kawhi.
And that is nothing. And then eventually go where you want to go, and that's LA. Listen, he may play in Chicago. It might be in the Big Three and not in the NBA. But I just love the fact that Lakers fans are already worried about him leaving, and he hasn't even been there for a month.
The Lakers should be worried about the Clippers, and that's it right now. Speaking of the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, first game against his former team, the Raptors. That's on Monday, November 11th, 10:30 p.m. Eastern on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 1.